That'll do nicely. Leicester City, Bournemouth 0, Leicester City 1. We've just gone and beat a Premier League team with a half rotated team. Brad, again, thanks for joining, man. What do you make of the game?
You know what? I saw the lineup and I thought, he's done what we really thought, but I hope he wouldn't, which was rest a load of players and give the youngsters a chance. And this might be one of them games where we're hoping not to get too much of a hiding from a Premier League side. I know it's only people might say it's only Bournemouth, but I looked at it. But I mean, what a performance! What an effort they all put in. It showed that none of these players are in the same mentality that most youngsters are when they're playing an FA Cup match. They were there to impress. They were there to really make Enzo think why they should be in these lineup plans more often. It was a great performance, and in the end, after many shooting practice attempts, one went in the back of the net, and it was worthy of winning any FA Cup tie, that wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Again, it's Fatawu's been doing it for a while. We'll get into that in a second, but Fatawu's been doing that for a while, and then eventually he gets his goal that he thoroughly deserves. But again, and what did you make of the game?
It's one of those. It's like you looked at it at the start and you thought this could go horrendously badly with the two lineups, because I'm not 100% sure about it, but I think that was a very strong Bournemouth team. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back, mate.
Don't know what happened there. But yeah, I looked at that team at the start and thought this could go horrendously wrong, because Bournemouth aren't a bad Premier League side, as Ethan says, and they're a team that weren't missing, apart from Solanke, and I say apart from Solanke, who's a brilliant player. Like, there was a lot of Premier League quality there, and like the fact that our patterns of play didn't go, the fact that we saw a lot of what we see week to week in that game was fantastic, and we were missing three of our main players.
Yeah, exactly. And considering the amount of re-rotated, we'll get into the first kind of the team that started. So pulling the formation up, we changed a lot of players. It was 9 players that were changed in total. The only people that kept their place was Hamza Chowdhury and Yannick Vestergaard. The rest were Pratt didn't keep his place, did he? In the last game?
No.
Okay, just double checking. Yeah, so again, we rotated heavily. Again, we're bringing in people like, again, Doyle came in, and then we'll talk about the different places and the formation of things. But considering, Brad, the team that we set up against Birmingham City was equivalent to I think it was pretty much a similar team to this. How we performed, and even though we got absolutely battered in that first half by Birmingham City, this team looks, even though it wasn't perfect, it wasn't gelling entirely because they've not played together. It looks a lot more assured if you compare to this game compared to Birmingham City first half.
Yeah, they did, and I suppose you could say since then a few players on that team have managed to get themselves a few more minutes under the belt. They've managed a few starts, a few sub appearances, and I know we didn't start this game, but players like Nelson had only just started making that bump up to the first team. Regular training, the regular travelling, sitting on the bench watching it play and see how the first team really do football, the style that Enzo wants. So back when we played Birmingham, it was still a little bit naive, a little bit niggly, whereas this performance against like Ant said, minus Solanke, I think maybe a few others, I don't really know, but that was a fairly strong Bournemouth side. They looked like players that had been working on this week in, week out. And what was interesting is the commentator made a very good point, which is shocking to say because I'm pretty certain it was Martin Keown, and we Leicester fans know what we think of Martin Keown. But he actually said maybe, strangely enough, Leicester being in the Championship for this fixture gives them the edge going the distance in it, because they are more used than Bournemouth have been to playing the Saturday, Tuesday. And I think you could tell that because the legs seem to tire on both sides naturally, but Leicester seem to have that little bit more energy about them. Bournemouth looked like a team that got to extra time and went, right, penalties or bust. And Leicester looked like a team that had a little bit more in the tank, in the reserve, to kind of go at them and eventually nick it. I actually said if we're going to nick it, it'll be something like an Iheanacho getting assisted from Fatawu. It was just the other way around. But I just think that really benefited us, and that's the difference between this performance and Birmingham.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I think even the way that we're playing, I know the under-23s have started to play a similar way as well. We're getting some of the specific players because without getting again the first half, we were creating some good chances. It was end-to-end game. It was quite an even game, even in the first half. But throughout the game, again, is there anybody you want to touch on? Just looking at any of these, because there was a few players that I would say that kind of shone.
For me, I thought we mentioned him because we were just watching the game together, saying about Eunice. Like, as frustrating as he was at times, he never hid for the ball, and he was always showing for the ball. And like, he's energetic and he makes things happen. I think the end product was questionable at times today, but a player that always shows for the ball can only be a good thing. Dennis Pratt looked tidy on the ball, but you'd expect him to. If Marcel is another one as well. Bournemouth away. Sorry, not Bournemouth away. We've just played Bournemouth away. Millwall in the last round of the cup looked very shy and nervous to get on the ball. He grew in confidence so much throughout that.
Yeah, I'm with you, and especially when it comes to that kind of game. In the first half, again, Marcel didn't really get his run away, but especially Brad in the second half, and especially into extra time, Marcel was one of the people that was like, I'm not sure, is he going to come off as maybe Silko Thomas comes on, but Marcel, especially in the second half, he was a young player. You see, he's got talent. You see, he can dribble and get past the player, and especially in the second half, he really grew into the game.
Yeah, he did, and it shows a lot of character, because we all remember at the start of the season, just before I think we hadn't quite got Fatawu or Eunice through the door on loan, so he started the season, didn't he? He had him on one side, I think it was McAteer on the other one, or maybe Mavadidi was on the left, and he was being favoured at the start over McAteer. And the young players, there was some moments tonight where you just saw his lack of experience, if you will, his naivety, where he kind of did what he needed to do and then sort of went, oh, actually, what do I do? I was expecting to beat this, sort of like almost not believing in himself enough to think one stage ahead of what he's going to do if he gets past his defender. But as the game grew on, I'm really glad he got the full, what turned out to be 120 minutes, because he grew into the game. And I was a little bit disappointed that the midfielder came off, Rakiti, or however you say his name. I'm not going to try and Rakiti came off, because I know it was probably because he was on a yellow card, but he didn't have a bad half. I'd have liked to have seen him at least get an extra 15 minutes of that second half, just to kind of give him some embedding time. I know Enzo's promised him first team football, which is why he's kind of, he ended up coming to us, I think it was, or staying with us or whatever. But that aside, I mean, Marcel, I thought as the game grew on, was up there as one of our best players in that second half performance. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but there's the elephant in the room in the middle of that park that was the man of the match for me. But Marcel had a brilliant second half and was probably, was very deserving to play the full 120.
Yeah, I think, and considering you look at the players that they decided to take off, obviously, Reiki that you mentioned, Doyle was taken off. You're looking at, what was it? Dennis Pratt was taken off, Marco Brighton, Tom Cannon. It showed you that they kept him on, because then they took Marco Brighton off. And I just want to mention another player. We'll talk about Reiki in just a second, but today, and Hamza Chowdhury was coming up against Billing. He was attacking. Defensively, he was solid. I think there was all different parts of the game where I really enjoyed Hamza's performance today. And it shows me again, I know you're not convinced by it, but this is why I think he can kick it in the Premier League.
As I've said, I think he's a brilliant Championship squad player. I'm still not, one performance for me doesn't change sort of my opinion on him at the Premier League level. But tonight he was fantastic. And one thing I'll say is defensively, he has always had that quality. And I think he's calmed down a lot in the last couple of years, which has helped. And today we saw a little bit more on the ball from him than we've seen in a long time. Because against Leeds, he was crap on the ball, but we sort of understood he wasn't really there to be playing the ball. He was more there to break up play for Leeds. Today, he progressed the ball well. He got himself about the park, and he put absolute beautiful tackle in. I don't know if the player it was for Bournemouth, but it was like Ricardo's tackle, that he got yellowed for on Friday. It was similar tackle to that, and it's like I thought he did really well today.
Yeah, and I think, and he was in my opinion, he was probably man of the match. Considering he played all the minutes, again, 120 minutes. His game management was good. I'm with you again in terms, and I think he played quite nicely with Reiki. I think it just comes to your point, Brad, as well. Is that I think Reiki was a bit naive, but I'd expect that from a player that's 19 years old, that's not played in the first team against the Premier League. At times he was, I think, especially in the first half, because he's got a bright future, but at times he made the wrong decision to go with the defender. The defender the midfielder just turned him and went past him. But I think him and Hamza were linked up quite well in the first half.
Yeah, they did, and you know, considering it was Premier League opposition and Premier League players, whether it was slightly rotated or strong 11 or not, it doesn't matter. They're played to play in the Premier League on regular match days, and the fact that he's 19 and it naturally makes some wrong decisions. It's naivety, it's a learning curve, but he's going to take so much from this game because his passing at times was great, and for every bad decision he probably made one or two good decisions in terms of his running off the ball and pressing when they did. So that's why I was kind of a little bit disappointed that he didn't at least see the second half. But I think Enzo's been very good at how he manages integrating these youth players into the first team, and I actually think Hamza Chowdhury maybe just proved where his level is if we go up. You know, I don't know if he'll play against a Man City or an Aston Villa next season, but I think maybe against an opposition like tonight's opponents, you know, like a Bournemouth, a Brentford sort of style of play, maybe even a West Ham with how if Moyes is still in charge, how he gets them to play. That's the sort of calibre of level he can play at. And for me, look, again, you can tell what sort of commentator Martin Keown is when he picks a man of the match based on the goal scorer. Because as good as the goal was, for me, Hamza Chowdhury was man of the match. He absolutely bossed it. You know, he changed through the gears as well, and he was switched position, wasn't he? At some point during that game, he was taking out that defensive role and pushed up, and he just looked even more impressive to me.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I think it's also going into another point as well. It's the substitutions that he made at what time as well. So looking at some of the subs, obviously we made 46. Or Ricardo came on at halftime for Reiki. You've got Fatawu came on for 64 for Brighton. Again, good sub. Kelechi Iheanacho. So Kelechi Iheanacho got the assist. Fatawu got the goal. Justin came on for Doyle, which I think was a good sub. And then Ben Nelson for Dennis Pratt. I mean, he got them pretty much bang on, in my opinion, subs-wise.
Yeah, I think, and like, here's a trick. I'm going to slightly disagree with what Brad said. I thought Reiki did well in the first half, but I did think the change for Ricardo was necessary because I did think one thing was, and it will come with age with him, is that he was losing his runners in the midfield, which is one area that we were struggling with. But again, he's a young kid; he's learning. But I think also Ricardo just gives us so much more going forward, as you'd expect. He's one of our key men. But again, Fatawu came on. I think he offered a lot more than Albrighton and much more of an outlet, and we kept the ball much better with Fatawu on. Iheanacho held the ball up, brought a lot of players into the game, and again, he's been away for a while. I said this when we were talking before we went up live. It feels like the perfect Enzo Maresca striker would be a mix between Daka and Iheanacho, with Daka's ability to press from the front and his work off the ball, and Iheanacho's ability to hold up the play and finish. It's like, if you get that, you've almost got the perfect striker for Enzo Maresca. But he was very positive when he came on. James Justin sort of shored up that defence. I like Callum Doyle. I think there's a half decent player there, but he was I thought he was exposed a lot out in the wide positions. Then Ben Nelson, what can you say? Fantastic young player.
Yeah, and I think Ben Nelson, I think, was a good substitution. Didn't look out of place, looked calm on the ball, and I think he will be used now. Vestergaard is going to be out for a couple of games as well. So again, the substitution, without getting into too much, but even in the first half, there was there wasn't really too many clear-cut opportunities. Again, Albrighton hit the post. Marcel had a good shot that Travis stopped there as well. But coming into that second half, it seemed like even though we put Ricardo on, the game was kind of dominated initially by Bournemouth. But the problem was they didn't really create any clear-cut opportunities, Brad. We kind of kept them at bay, even though they were kind of in control.
Yeah, and that was the vital period of the game for me, because that's when you I quote, you put on your big guns, everybody in the crowd go, yeah, that first 5-10 minutes is where you kind of catch a team out cold going for it, because that's what you're essentially doing in the cup, aren't you? You're saying, right, we're getting the big guns on, we're going to slowly put them on, we want to change it up. And I know it was only Ricardo, but like Ant said, Ricardo for the youngster completely changes the dynamic of how Leicester are going to go about things because of what he brings to us in that midfield. There was a shape change in that, and for that 5-10 minutes, Bournemouth just didn't grab the initiative because it just meant Leicester had to settle into a slightly different pattern of play. And I'm not, obviously they're used to it with him, playing the majority of the season, but they just didn't capitalise on that, and that for me was pivotal, because when that 5-10 minutes sort of settled down, Bournemouth just could not create anything. And in fact, you could hear by the frustration of the fans every time something sort of seemed to happen. Leicester sent the defence back, the midfielders trapped back, and the attack was dead. So that was a pivotal 5-10 minutes for Leicester to get through, and they did it really well.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I'm with you. And again, that just shows down to the manager making the substitution right time. The game management was fantastic, and just overall, after that, we started seeing that would this work in the Premiership? Yes, they rotated some of their key players, but it was still pretty strong Premier League side. And towards the end of that game, and it looks like there was only going to be one winner, and that was Leicester City. I know it went to 0-0 at the end, but it seemed like Bournemouth were kind of tired and were not going to press as much, not going to close down as much, and Leicester kind of went for the jugular.
They did, and there were moments where Bournemouth could have done caused a few issues, but considering, I thought we saw outshot very well, and then we looked dangerous on the counter as well. I think there was Yunus had a moment where if he was a bit more physical, he probably could have gone through 1-on-1. Marcel, again, looking lively on the counter as well. So it was nice to see like a bit of defensive solidity at the end, but then also still looking a threat. It wasn't as if it was everyone behind the ball and just hoof it forward and just have wave after wave. It was good game management.
Yeah, exactly. And again, good game management, getting to 0-0, and you're thinking, okay, what's Leicester going to do here? And again, we came out, it was kind of an equal second half, and then just getting into the goal. I mean, just Fatawu takes it. He was growing into the game, especially in the second half. A lot of stuff was coming down for him. And we've been looking at him to get goals in that opportunity. He's done it a few times where he's cutting on his left and he's skied them over the bar. He's hit the bar, he's hit the post. But Brad, that one's got to be contender for goal of the season. Just the way he starts that move, pats it over to Iheanacho, doesn't quite get his shot away, and then he just bends it round the keeper. Compared to like the Morris where they used to put it top bins, this was less top bins, but because of the power, it just beats the keeper. The keeper got a hand to it, but he couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, you know what they say, don't you? If at first you don't succeed, try again, because he has been doing that all season. And yes, 99% of them have flown high, wide, and not at all Hampson. It wasn't just the pace that beat the goalkeeper. I don't know if you managed to see the replay or anything, but to me, it looked like the ball went wide. Like he managed to get some magic bend on it with the pace. It looked to be going wide and like it was going to hit the post in it, and then all of a sudden it curved back in, and that kind of threw the keeper off with his movement in the air, because he's going for a stretch to try and get a fingertip on it, and all of a sudden that ball seemed to dip from nowhere. It was such a good hit, and it's not like a huge notice. We're not talking like Roberto Carlos bend and curls or stuff here. It was very fractional, but the fact that he got such a dip and curve on the ball, because it kind of went out wide of the goal, came back in and dropped a bit. It was such a finish. More of them in the league, please, Fatawu. Maybe if you can bring them more to the league, but boy, oh boy, the clause in his loan deal, whatever it may be, Neil, the closer we get to it, the more you got to start salivating at the mouth, thinking, we've been thinking, what's he going to do to a Premier League opposition? And tonight, an experienced Lewis Cook struggled to keep him out of the game. I mean, he did for bits of parts. Don't get me wrong, but he did prove that he's got the creativity to break that down. So, a goal of the season for sure for me. Well, no. Because it's a left back and because he doesn't score, I'm going to get still JJ has the edge for me against Cardiff, but it was a hell of a goal.
It really was. And again, looking at his statistics around that as well, 9 goals, 4 assists now in all competitions. I know that's obviously in all competitions, but the fact is that's the one part of his game that I think he needs to get better at is the finishing. And he will get there in time. And I mean, we have to touch on the goal. It was sublime. We watched it together doing the stream, and my God, it was just that kind of goal where this is a special player. He just needs to do it on a more regular basis. Not saying that, we've been leaking for it, but I think that might be the little trigger that he needs to take his game on to the next level.
Yeah, it's a confidence thing, and he's a young player. The numbers will come in time. It's like, and I think more so than Yunus, but you know what we said about Yunus earlier on, that he always has a positive impact on the game. We're always trying to make things happen. And I think the end product will come with him. And it's like, he's already, in terms of assists, creativity-wise, very good, very good. And I just think he's been very unfortunate at times this season where he's hit the post, he's hit the crossbar. Those numbers will come. And the thing is, we're saying this now, it's like he could still end up with his first season in England, whilst he's still a teenager, getting double digits for goals.
Yeah, double digits for goals, and he's already on. He will get double digits for assists, I believe, by the end of the season, which is still pretty incredible. And then also towards the end, something we've seen from Wout Fast, but I mean, Vestergaard nearly had a run on himself, didn't he, Brad? Just towards the end, luckily, chipped over the keeper, but just had it off the goal. But again, that would have just been topped off the game quite nicely. But Vestergaard's run again after playing 120 minutes, running down that side, lovely 1-2. He kept going, and just chipped it, but just missed out. But a great run from him, and I'm just gutted that he didn't get that goal.
Yes, I'm gutted for him. I mean, Chris went to the game tonight. He was lucky enough to get tickets. I think if he'd have scored it, he'd have spontaneously combust. He's got a loving for Vestergaard. But you know what? I'm gonna say something here that I don't like to say. Change my mind on one game like Ant said about Hamza. But just maybe a little bit tongue in cheek here. But there's rumours that Vestergaard's in talks to get an extension on his contract, and people are still going, yeah, but Premier League, when it comes, will it matter? Again, maybe in the same bracket as Hamza. He's not going to play against your Man Cities because he'll get absolutely shredded. He's not going to play against your Liverpools because he'll get absolutely shredded. But against a Bournemouth team that isn't, absolutely flooded with pace, and all right, summer transfer window that might change, but he proved his worth, is what I'm saying. A very, very experienced Bournemouth side, regardless of 1 or 2 changes, and we have to emphasise that he put in another stellar performance. And if Hamza Chowdhury didn't boss that midfield the way he did, for me, he was second in the running for man of the match. And I wanted him to score, mate. I wanted him to score and do like a backflip like Fatawu just to seal it off, because it was 90-yard run he made in the end to do that, and a chip. I mean, Atgood could use some notes on finishing like that, the way he took that, nearly put that in the net.
I mean, you make a good point. I think just coming on to Atgood in a second before we kind of finish up, because he gave it all in this game, but it just wasn't quite there. But he didn't give up. He didn't think, oh, this is it. Oh, I'm going to put my head down. He kept getting the position, and it just didn't quite work out for, again, a combination of good defending, kind of fluffed his lines a little bit. But he was getting in those positions where if you keep getting those positions, you will score eventually.
Yeah, it's one of those, and it's like, I think if we could potentially be having a different conversation if we didn't win the game, of thinking of like wasteful Leicester sort of particularly after Leeds. But is positive that he keeps getting in those positions and he doesn't shirk the responsibility and go hiding.
Yeah, exactly. And again, he did that in the game, and it's a bit frustrating again his performance. But it's again is what Chester's saying as well. We appreciate that he always trying, never looks downbeat, never missed a game, always try to press from the front as well, which I was really impressed with. And the fact is, again, we're just really, again, in a good position. I mean, considering that, again, Brad, we've lost 2 games on the bounce on the Championship. Won this game, we've got QPR in the next game. A lot of the players have been rested. Do you think this is the confidence the team needs taking into the QPR game?
I don't think this team's ever really suffered too much in the lack of confidence, but it's only going to benefit them, isn't it? I think it will boost the confidence just a little bit, just to reassure them that they can do the job in front of goal. They can still defend and be resolute and see out games, because I think over the last few weeks, we've just got a little bit jittery, maybe a bit too excited that when we were 9, 11 points clear, that some of the players started getting ahead of themselves a little bit, and this little bad run of form, which is our worst run of form we've had all season, which is there's the exact same form worst run we had earlier in the season against the exact same opposition. I mean, how scary is that to say it? I think it was one of them games where even if we'd have lost, we'd still taken confidence of it, because they didn't look lacking confidence the way they played today. And just to touch on Eunice, what I liked about Eunice, and again, you're talking tactical as well as substitution decisions Enzo got right. He subsidised not having pace that Cannon shows he has up front by bringing Iheanacho on, who's going to drop deep and can get the ball, and he just went to Eunice, get him behind him, and criticise his shooting all anybody wants to do. He got him behind and was shredding their defence 3 or 4 times, and with better composure, like you guys have said, and better finishing, he could have scored a hat-trick tonight. So I'm glad we got the win. It's an absolute bonus. Bring on Coventry at home in the next round if we draw them out. I say, why not? Get some revenge for their cup final win there against us a few weeks ago. But I just think it was an added bonus, because tonight for me it was performance. Keep the good performance, keep it going. The fact that we've got ourselves into the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, added bonus. Let's win a lot. Let's win them both. Win the cup, win the Championship. Why not?
Well, again, we'll have to see in terms of that, because again, the main priority is still just getting into the Premier League at this point in time.
Exactly. Exactly.
So again, we're just seeing that, and then coming into the team. Just want to touch on a couple of people to kind of finish up. One person I want to touch on, somebody we're not seeing too much. Connor Cody played all 120 minutes, and what did you make of him?
I think he did well considering how little he's played. There was that one moment where I think he tried to overplay it slightly and played himself into trouble. But I'm nitpicking from a 120-minute performance to be able to pick one real fault. Like, do you know what I mean? I thought he did well, and it's like, I think we'll see more of him over the next couple of weeks because of obviously Vestergaard's suspension.
Yeah, and do you know what? I don't think he gets in the team. I don't know what you think, Brad. Coming into the QPR game, I don't think Vestergaard gets in. Cody gets in the team. I think they'll go for Nelson that will probably come in. And the reason why they kept Cody on for that long, again, he is playing out of position, but I think they probably prefer Walt Foster in the middle if Vestergaard's not available.
My heart wants Nelson to play because he's a Leicester youth product. He's that cliche player. He's a Leicester boy. I want him to play. But for me, I actually want Cody to play. I think that QPR, in a weirdest sort of way, because it's at home as well, are the best sort of opposition to get more minutes into Cody's legs, because that 120 odd minutes will have done him well. We saw what he did in the Carabao Cup when he made his debut for us, and he's a figure that Leicester fans expected to see more of. I mean, that's credit to the likes of Vestergaard and that we've not seen more of him in time, but also he wants to give a performance that kind of says, look, Gaffer, I'm going to be your man going forward. I want to be your striker, and we're not going to get Vestergaard for 2 games. QPR seems like the opposition that's probably more perfect for him to keep that up. He's going to have the home crowd. It's a struggling QPR side. But we will see, because it's a tough one for Enzo to decide, because he's got the long-term future potentially in Nelson, who should probably be playing, but you don't invest in someone like Cody and then just not play them when the opportunity is there, because he offers, funny enough, what Vestergaard offers Wout Faes, which is the freedom to go forward. I know today Vestergaard did it himself, but I think he's a bit more, I don't want to say reliable, but it's the only word I can think of, than Nelson, in the fact that, we talked about the experience, the naivety is still there for him to make a mistake and not recover it like Cody can. Cody made a mistake, I think, or two in the game, but recovered well because he used all his experience to make the recovery challenge. Whereas you don't want to do that, because you don't want to derail this performance, and you don't want to put too much pressure on Nelson to go out there and perform. So I would actually want Cody starting over Nelson for me.
Fair enough, and I think it makes a good point. I think for me, it's I think Fast probably. I think Nelson might probably come into the team. Fast comes into the middle, and I think and then probably JJ comes to the right, to the left. Sorry. And actually, speaking of that, and playing on the left, Callum Doyle today. I'd rate him as a player, but he's not looked top tier since he came back from his injury, and especially when you've got Yannick Vestergaard at the back, playing them two alongside each other, it's no wonder that they try to attack that right hand side a lot more. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but I think the nice thing I would say, he wasn't bad, but he was the weakest of the three defenders today.
He looks vulnerable, doesn't he, when the ball came down the channel? And it's like, I think that lack of pace at times, like, it gets exposed, because I think if he was a little bit more central, that probably doesn't get exposed. But the fact he's out on the wing, out on that wide position, he's often playing against channels. He's often out in that wide channel against fast wingers, and I think he struggles with that. But on the ball, he's fantastic, and I think centrally, if he's in more of a central area, you see less of his faults. But again, he's such a young player. It's like, I think he's one that we're just going to need to be patient with.
Yeah, but do you think it's hard to say right now with the patience, but for example, do you think he thrives more if you've got somebody like Fast that can cover him behind with his pace?
I don't know. Probably, yeah. Because I think Vestergaard and Callum Doyle both have similar qualities in terms of both very good on the ball, but also both have the same struggles of like not being the quickest in the world.
Yeah, fair enough. Makes sense. And Brad, again, it's great to kind of finish up now. But Brad, again, thanks for joining, man. Really appreciate it. Let the people know where they can find you, and any final thoughts.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. It's a great podcast as always. Good channel, both. You do great work here, mate. And my final thought is, you heard it here first, guys. Brad's brilliant predictions. Don't go and check the predictions league that we do on LTRD TV. Ant will tell you all about it. Leicester will now go on to win both the FA Cup and the Championship. There's my final thought. Crazy outlandish thought. And Leicester till I die TV, both channels, that's where you can find us. But make sure you're doing your good stuff here and supporting Beyond the 91st. And if you want to show a little bit of appreciation, you can head over to Ant's Leicester Fans TV. Sorry, Ant. Couldn't keep a straight face. I've subsided from the small jokes all night, but that one just crept out. Sorry, matey.
I'm going to ignore Brad.
Oh dear. Yeah, hey, Ante over there. He's just doesn't know what to say. I'm sorry.
I'll put Brad's again. If you send me your link, that I'll put it in the title and things, and I'll try and get people over to your channel as well. But yeah, and then also, before we go, I'll leave a link in the chat to everybody's to Ant's channel, which we're going to be going live to just after this one. But Ant, any final thoughts before we finish up?
Yeah, for my final thoughts, come over and follow that link. See you in a minute.
Okay, you've heard the man.
Short and sweet, you can love it.
We're going to get into his on Jazz channel. So again, I've left the link down below. Make sure you head over there for those videos. Thank you for all the people that have commented. I'm trying to get something for QPR, but I'm away for the weekend. But if I'm back in time, I'll try and get a post-match reaction where I can. Make sure you like, subscribe, everybody, all that good stuff. And we'll see everybody in the next video. Click the link in the chat, and we're going to go over to Ant's channel now. So goodbye.